Okay, welcome back to another episode of Third and 23. I'm your host, Alex, here to bring you another pick and prediction video. On to another CFP quarterfinal matchup. We've got Alabama versus Indiana in the Rose Bowl, 4 p.m. New Year's Day kickoff. You see on my animation there, I got it pouring rain because if you are not aware, they are on a flood watch out there in the LA area. They're saying that there's going to be 100% chance of precipitation, rain, some thunderstorms before the game, during the game, and so on, all on New Year's Day out there in the Pasadena area. So keep that in mind if you're looking to bet this game. Indiana comes into this as a 6.5 point favorite. I have seen this go up to 7 on some books, but I'm catching it at 6.5. All right, as far as how these teams got here, Alabama got the revenge against Oklahoma in the first round after being down 17-0. Stormed back. Ty Simpson started to look like the Ty Simpson from early in the season. And Indiana, undefeated, the number one seed, number one team in the country, beat defending champ Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game 13-10 to book their ticket as the top seed in the college football playoff. All right, getting into it, we've got Alabama's offense versus Indiana's defense. So Alabama, they're pretty easy to, evaluate. They're a passing offense. It's all about Ty Simpson, and the passing efficiency is driven by chunk plays, not necessarily consistency. So what I mean by that, you got a great wide receiver room with Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams and Isaiah Horton, and the freshman who went off against Oklahoma's name is escaping me right now. 20th in explosives, 31st in success rate. That's a little ho hum, and 117th in EPA under pressure. Ty Simpson, if you get him off his spot, he has a lot of problems dealing with pressure. It's one of the reasons why I picked Oklahoma last week, and it looked like that early on. But he turned it around. And maybe Ty Simpson is starting to be that quarterback that we saw early in the season. Going against an Indiana defense that's top 15 in basically every pass defense metric out there, EPA, success rate, explosive pass plays. But as I've said in the Ohio State video, Indiana, a top team in the Big Ten, there's a lot of garbage in the Big Ten that there could have been some stat padding that you might have seen with Indiana this season. And they didn't go against anyone non-conference worth a damn, so you can't really evaluate them on anybody outside of the Big Ten. However, they did shut down Julian Saint and got 5 sacks against the Ohio State Buckeyes in the Big Ten championship game. So you got to respect their pass defense. About that pressure rate, so Alabama, as I've already mentioned, Ty Simpson really struggles under pressure this season. He's been pressured on 32% of his dropbacks. 23% he has a 23 completion rate on 20 plus air yards under pressure. So what I mean by that is when he's under pressure, sometimes quarterbacks they get under pressure, they toss one deep and hit a big chunk play down the field. He's completing 23% of his passes on those, one of the worst in the country. So he's struggling everywhere under pressure. And now you're talking about a game where there's going to be rainy conditions. I think that's going to really impact Ty Simpson even more in this one. And Indiana brings pressure. 13th ranked pressure rate is 40.2%. They've pressured their completion percentage against quarterbacks that they pressure. Let me rephrase that. On 20 plus air yards, when the quarterback is pressured, they're allowing a completion percentage of 31%, which is decent. Actually, is not very elite. So a better quarterback under pressure probably could ping him over the top a few times. But that's not what Ty Simpson is this season. He's not been a quarterback that's been good under pressure. So we're going to see how that shakes out in this game. And then running game. You guys know it. If you follow football, Alabama's rush offense is probably the worst since before Nick Saban was even there. 3.2 yards per carry, 106th in EPA per rush. Their stuff rate is 23.2%. I mean, they get stuffed 23.2% of their running plays. That's 67th in the country. And they struggle to run all year. Indiana, complete opposite of that. Stuff rate is 27.4%. That's third nationally. They're second in EPA per rush allowed. Second in success rate allowed, only behind Oklahoma, who Alabama faced last week. And Oklahoma really shut down this Bama run game for the most part last week. Or in the first round. So I don't know if this is a game where you're going to see, okay, now Alabama's going to turn things around. It should be noted, though, Indiana did lose their star defensive tackle, Stephen Daly, for this game. I guess he tore his knee celebrating the Big Ten championship win. It's a rough way to go out, but is what it is. So they are going to be down a guy up front. Keep that in mind if you're thinking about doing this game. And moving on to the flip side of this, Alabama's defense against Indiana's offense. So Alabama's defense, pass defense, has been fine this year. 6.2 yards per attempt allowed. That's top 20 nationally. Third in explosive pass plays allowed. They allow 61% completion percentage. That's 60th national. That's just okay. Going against the Heisman Trophy winner Fernando Mendoza. Now, I'm gonna just put this out there. You might agree with me. You might disagree with me. This is probably the worst Heisman chase in years. I mean, as far as I can remember, you look at Mendoza's numbers, and they're fine, they're straight. But Heisman, like, come on. But is what it is. The Heisman Trophy winner. He's a very efficient quarterback. 9.1 yards per attempt, 70.3 completion percentage, top 10 nationally in EPA. I respect the Kurt Signetti offense too because he did it last year with Curtis Rourke at quarterback. So I don't know if it's so much Mendoza or Kurt Signetti. Can't really call it there, but I do respect Kurt Signetti, probably the best coach in the country right now for what he's been able to do at Indiana. And you got to respect Mendoza. He's a good quarterback. He's a smart quarterback. He's an efficient quarterback. I just don't know if I'm going all the way saying he's a Heisman quarterback. But anyways, so that's going to be an interesting matchup. And this one is Indiana's pass offense against that Bama defense. Indiana's they got passing options on the outside. They got multiple threats at wide receiver, but it's led by Elijah Surratt. He's the one legit that I think legit NFL target in that pass offense. He's balled against pretty much anybody. He's anybody you match up against him. He's had solid games. He's had big games against. So Alabama's secondary, I don't think they're gonna shut down Elijah Surratt. I think he's gonna hit some big chunk plays in this one. And then Alabama's pass rush, 110th in pressure rate, terrible, 59th in sacks, and that really goes to what Alabama's, I guess you could say, identity is this year. That it's on the line of scrimmage. They can't run block. They can't run the ball. They can't stop the run. They can't rush the passer. It's that line of scrimmage area, that front seven on defense, those front five and those backs on offense. They're just weak there. Run defense against the better rush teams Alabama has faced this year, because Alabama struggled against the run, but the better teams they face running the football, averaging giving up 176 yards per game and 5.8 yards per carry. Indiana's a solid running attack. 5.5 yards per carry, 221 yards per game. They have a low stuff rate, an EPA per attempt that is top 15 nationally. So this is a strong rushing attack. I will say when Indiana has played tougher run defenses, which they haven't played too many of them, but if their running backs, so taking out sacks, Mendoza and stuff like that, their running backs have averaged 108 yards per game and 3.8 per carry. So not really that strong. But then again, Alabama, I wouldn't put them in that top run defense category anyway. So I think Indiana's going to be able to run the ball in this one. And when you're talking about the conditions, the rainy conditions in this one, it's going to lean more towards who can run the ball, right? So I think that favors Indiana in this game. And then finally, the matchup on how I think this is going to play out. So, as I say, you look at this from 30,000 foot view. Bama is, I said in the Oklahoma game, I was wrong. They're kind of soft, right? They can't run the ball. They can't stop the run. I didn't really see anything that at OU game that really made me think differently. I mean, I give them credit from coming back down 17. I give Ty Simpson credit for kind of turning back the clock to earlier in the season when he was hitting some throws, making some big plays through the air. But in these conditions, if it's raining like they're saying it's going to rain, and they say heavy rainfall, I don't think that you're going to see Ty Simpson be able to spin it like that, like he did in the second half of that Oklahoma game. I think it's going to be more towards the fading down the stretch Ty Simpson you're going to see in this one, especially against a top Indiana Hoosier defense. I think that you're going to see Indiana, if Mendoza's a smart quarterback, he's going to play efficient football. He's likely going to just keep things short and intermediate, and they're just going to try to control the tempo of this game with the ground game, which I think they'll be able to do against the Alabama defense. So because of that, my model, I got Indiana -9. Spread is -6.5. I'm going with my model in this one as well. I like Indiana winning by more than a touchdown. I'm going to take the Hoosiers and lay the 6.5. Kurt Signetti against Kalen DeBoer. I'm taking Kurt Signetti all day, every day. So anyways, that wraps it up. If you like the content, please like, comment, subscribe, all of that as you're going to see more pick and prediction videos. We got one more video to do, the Oregon-Texas Tech game, so stay tuned for that. Take care.